Welcome, everyone. This week I'm speaking to you from Mauritius, and we've had wonderful blue skies, beautiful oceans. We've just completed a weekend retreat on the east side of the island at a hotel called Long Beach. And over the weekend, we covered a chapter from the Bhagavad Gita that spoke about the qualities of an enlightened person. And in the last section, particularly, it highlights the importance of self control. Now, for those who've been following over the last few weeks and our sessions on the podcast, you would know that when we say self control, that's not a vague term anymore. When we say self control, we are referring to which part in our personality? Anyone?
Our mind.
Our mind. But what controls what?
Intellect controls the mind.
The intellect controls the mind and it controls the senses. The senses get attracted to all the temptations in the world, all the sense objects of the world, and it's the nature of the senses to be drawn towards the world. The world itself is getting more and more attractive. It is becoming easier and easier to fulfill desires, to fulfill sensuality. So, self control is the ability to manage, govern, direct our senses, the mind, with all its different characteristics, and take us to where we would like to go, to become the person we want to be, and ultimately to reach evolution, self realization, enlightenment. Now, the first step in self control is to understand what we're dealing with. Why do the senses, why do the mind, why does it need to be managed? Why does it need to be governed? We think of the mind as us. So, why do we need to govern a part of us? And we've been going week by week, quality by quality, dissecting the nature of the mind, learning about this incredible tool that, if not harnessed, sabotages us. But if directed, becomes our greatest asset, and as the Bhagavad Gita says, your greatest friend. So, let's recap and then also introduce the topic for today. The nature of the mind has emotions. Emotions can be a pillar, emotions can also be a weakness. Without the aid of the intellect to steer and direct it, emotions can hijack and flood the personality. But then we also spoke about the herd instinct. The herd instinct is this tendency to follow what others are doing, which need not be best for us. Likes and dislikes. We gravitate to what we like, not realizing that that instant joy or instant pleasure may not be good for us, or we avoid what we dislike, which may be beneficial for us. So the intellect has got to stand apart, irrespective of whether you like it or dislike it, and see, is this what is good for me? Is this what is necessary for the goals I want to achieve? And then we spoke and we spent some time on the worries and anxieties of the mind. Constantly regretting, holding on to the past, either mistakes that we've made or others have made, but also anxiety about what's going to happen in the future. And then, coming to the last session, this mind pitches up endless desires. And the purpose of the endless desires is to go and find lasting satisfaction, lasting fulfillment. Why? Why is the mind looking for lasting fulfillment? Every human being is searching for happiness. We just not searching for it with structure, with science, with logic. We are randomly going about as if we're in a dark room, getting bumped here and there, hitting tables and furniture, when we can switch the light on and navigate our way. Why are we looking for lasting satisfaction? Anyone?
Because of our desires, the vasanas.
Yes, correct. So why are the desires? When we approach a desire, why are we looking for lasting satisfaction?
Because our original nature is we are self and self is infinite.
Excellent.
So we are forever looking at something that is infinite.
Great. Our original nature is absolutely fulfilled. So that pressure to get back to your original nature, to get back to your spirit, yourself, your real identity, is the spiritual path, is the purpose of every desire. The trouble is, the places we are looking for it will not give lasting satisfaction. Can ice cream do that for you? No. Can wealth do that for you? No. Can family do that for you? No. Nothing external can give you that lasting satisfaction. Therefore, we said, O mind, which is constantly generating desire after desire in the pursuit of lasting satisfaction, I see this mad, mad game. You want lasting satisfaction, but we're searching in all the wrong places. I see it. So instead of chasing desire, you take a step back and you may still desire, but you don't desire for happiness. In the sense, you understand that constantly fulfilling desire is not going to give you happiness. Enough is never enough. No level of success, no level of achievement, no quantum is ever going to give you that final satiation, that final satisfaction, that quenching of this internal thirst. John D. Rockefeller, the wealthiest man at his time, he was asked, "How much money is enough money?" To which he replied, "Just a little bit more." And John D. Rockefeller, by saying that, he shares the folly of humanity. We really think that it is about more. So, when we pursue desires, we're looking for happiness, but we're doing it in two ways. So, we're doing it in acquisition, and that is the first motivation. And the second way is through enjoyment. Whatever we acquire, we want to enjoy. We want to experience more and more. So acquisition is the more. Never enough. Any amount and you will still find it wanting. Today's session is entitled Indulgence and Attachment. It talks about the other two characteristics of this mind. So it's going about looking for that lasting satisfaction. It's not founded in acquisition. So we've realized that. And we are making sure that we don't place our happiness on a future acquisition, on a future achievement. We're trying to be content with where we are. We're disciplining our desires, removing the ones we don't need. But then the other place that we find happiness, besides acquisition, is in enjoyment. You go and you have a good meal, so satisfying. The location we're at the moment in Mauritius, it is postcard perfect. Beautiful, palm trees, blue ocean, bluer skies, soft sand, incredible. So you want to enjoy. You want to enjoy sights, you want to enjoy smells, we want to enjoy all the different sensations that the world has to offer. But remember, when approaching that object of enjoyment, we need to be aware that that object of enjoyment cannot fulfill you completely. So suppose a person comes, maybe from your country, and you come all the way to Mauritius for the Vedanta retreat, and you say, my goodness, what a peaceful place. What am I doing living in the country that I am in? And you move to Mauritius. Is that the answer to all your problems? Ask the people in Mauritius. Are they enlightened? Are they fulfilled? Are they happy? They want something else. They say, oh, the island is so slow, so boring. I need something more. I want to go to a place that's got activity. And the mind pitches up something else. The problem with enjoyment is that when we experience that pleasure, the mind goes high. It experiences that satisfaction, and then it mistakes that object, or it could be a person. You enjoy someone's company and you think, this is what I've been looking for my whole life. This person, this child, this restaurant, that's it. And the mind gets convinced by that and goes back to that object or person, and this is where the indulgence sets in. So there's nothing wrong with enjoyment. Please enjoy the world. But when you go back to the world and you indulge in it, you're indulging because you want to squeeze that object for all the pleasure it has. We think that that object will keep giving the pleasure that we first experienced. But what is our experience? What is our experience? If you think about maybe if you stayed in Mauritius a little bit longer, you extended your holiday. It's temporary. It's temporary. Okay, what else?
We reach stage of neutralization.
We reach a stage of neutralization.
You want more.
We want more. Think back for those of you who have been married for some time or have been going out for many, many years. If you've been in a relationship for a long time, think back to when you first met. The thrill, the excitement, the courtship, just touching hands was such an exhilarating experience. Just the slightest touch and thrilled. Why? Because it's new, the excitement is there, the thrill is there, and because of the enjoyment you get from that, we want to repeat it. And then you get married. And suddenly, from meeting the person on weekends, once in a while, you have 24/7 availability. And then your partner tries to hold your hand and you say, your hand is sweaty. No, please. What is it? What is this holding hand? We don't need to hold hands anymore. What has changed? What has changed? Has the person changed? So, what is the factor that gives it the enjoyment?
The routine has changed.
The routine has changed.
Proximity.
The proximity has changed, yes. limited. The proximity is limited. The desire and always constantly living in a world of Maya. Okay. And you start taking for granted. Taking for granted.
Novelty.
No?
No expectations.
No expectation.
Novelty.
The novelty, the newness. The freshness of the experience is gone because we've indulged in it. And the mind is like a child, it doesn't realize what it's doing. But we've taken someone or something that we really enjoyed, and in innocently indulging and pursuing, what do? We go and we want it more and more and more. And what happens is the law of diminishing value. You might have studied this in economics. In Vedanta, it's called the law of neutralization. In the beginning, when you contact that person or that object, it could be your favorite restaurant, a pizza that you enjoy, it could be a particular cocktail that you really enjoy. And when you have it for the first time, maximum pleasure. Oh, this is a gift of the gods. Incredible. What a person, what an object. Maximum pleasure. But then if you go back to that object looking for the same pleasure, you get pleasure, but not the same amount as the first time. So you continue to contact with the idea of enjoying it as much as you did the first time. It's almost as if we're keeping that memory alive, trying to get what we first experienced. But the problem is, if you subsequently contact too often, and that's indulgence. So contacting, no problem. But when you contact repeatedly, the enjoyment comes all the way down to zero. Until we get to a point where the desire is so strong and you're contacting the object or the person, but there is no pleasure because we've had so much of it. We've lost the novelty, we take it for granted, zero pleasure. My question to you then, why do we continue to contact that person or object? It could be a cup of coffee. In the beginning, a coffee now and then, so refreshing, so soothing. Wow. And then you say, let me make it part of my life. And you have once a day, and you enjoy that once a day. But then that once a day becomes first thing I do when I wake up. And then it becomes, in some parts of Europe, by 12 noon, people have had 5 espressos. Why does the person continue to have the coffee when they get to a point where actually they're not getting any more pleasure? It doesn't give them pleasure. It could be a drinker, it could be a smoker, it can be a marriage. Why do you continue to contact that person or that object if there's no pleasure?
Trying to repeat the experience or looking for that first experience.
Yeah, you're looking for that first experience? Okay.
If they don't have it, they get pain. So to avoid that, they indulge even though they're not getting the pleasure.
If you don't have it, there is a discomfort. So we've indulged so much that something that we used to enjoy, and you could call this taking it for granted, it just becomes normal. So neutralization is when you've had such an excess of it that you don't get any more pleasure. But if you don't have it or if you're denied it, you feel something missing, something incomplete about you. So imagine, and that's the withdrawal symptom. You've been so accustomed to it that when you try to withdraw from it, you feel incomplete. Your body takes a while to adjust to the lack of it. We've made ourselves dependent on it without the benefit. And the worst thing is, we are doing this to things that we like. We are doing this to people whose company we enjoy. And because we have access or we have affordability, availability, what do? We go and indulge, lose the relationship, lose the enjoyment. Therefore, if we want to keep enjoying anything in life, whether it be ice cream or Mauritius or a holiday or a person or to extend a relationship, what do we need to do? How does the intellect need to come in and manage this nature of the mind to indulge wherever it gets pleasure? What do we need to do?
A little bit of restraint or intellect.
Restraint.
You should use your intellect to govern it.
Use your intellect.
Work on our inner self.
Work on our inner selves. The simple aspect or answer is regulate. Give it some space. A little bit of elbow room. Just a little bit of space. But if you come too close, you lose perspective, you lose the joy. You give a little bit of space for that person to be who they are. You give a little bit of space so that the contact is always fresh. This does not mean physical space. It may not be physical space. The more important aspect is, are you giving it a space in your mind? If you're constantly thinking about it, that is when the pleasure goes. But if you give some space in your mind, you're not constantly thinking about it, then when you contact it again, the pleasure comes back. Khalil Gibran, the great poet, he says, marriage is like a temple resting on two pillars. If they come too close to each other, the temple will collapse. So marriage is something beautiful. It's a temple. But this temple rests on two pillars. So there's space in between. But if you bring it too close, it falls. Robert Louis Stevenson, he says, absences are a good influence in love. So now and then, to have a break, to travel, to keep some space in the relationship, it's a positive thing. Absences are a good influence in love, and keep it bright and delicate. So, for those of you who have partners and you're living with your partner, this is not easy. But when you go to work and you go to work separately, there's an opportunity there. There's an absence. So when you come back and you unite, then you find that there is a looking forward, a freshness. You want to discuss your day. What conversations did you have? Who did you meet? Otherwise, we take it for granted. So we have to be careful of indulgence. It is a nature of the mind. So, from this quality of the mind, what is our take home for today?
Develop the intellect.
Develop the intellect. You know, in any one of our classrooms, if I ask any question, if you say develop the intellect, 50% of the time you will be correct. It all boils down to this: develop the intellect, develop the intellect. That is our tool for human development. Yes, we have to develop the intellect. I'm looking for a little bit more
Is it
specific.
that mind has no dimension nor direction?
Mind has no direction or dimension. So we've got to understand that this mind can keep indulging until all pleasure is obliterated. So therefore,
Moderation.
moderation. And when do we pick that up, Paresh?
No attachment.
No attachment.
Sorry, what do you mean by when do we pick that up?
When do we act on that?
When do we act on it?
When do we decide to moderate? When do we decide to regulate?
I think it needs a keen awareness to observe ourselves being indulgent and then say to ourselves, this is indulgence. It's gone beyond mere enjoyment and pleasure. And so then you instill a degree of moderation.
So it's a lot of self awareness. So the intellect is constantly observing our different relationships and ensuring that it never goes to indulgence where you feel the pleasure lessening. That means I'm contacting too much. I need to give a bit of space, a bit of gap. So, in order to protect the relationship, in order to preserve the enjoyment, give some space. If you have a favorite place that you visit and you enjoy it so much, you go there once a month, it's a treat, it's a thrill. You go there once a week, still okay, you enjoy it. You go there every day, not as much. Suppose you had the ability to hire the cook and the cook cooks for you day and night that menu. The pleasure reduces. After 2 weeks to a month, no more pleasure. So if we know that we really enjoy something, space it out. Keep that space. If you find that you have something that you do regularly and you start finding that it's not giving that same pleasure anymore, give it a little break and the pleasure comes back. Now, indulgence is the quality that leads to the next aspect of the mind. When we start indulging, we keep thinking about a person or an object. The mind has a tendency to get stuck to that person or object. It is called attachment. We get attached. And the problem with attachment is we don't know that it's a negative thing. In fact, in society, it's glorified. We mistake attachment as love. So it's being encouraged on one hand, saying that we should get attached. We should be attached to our family. We should be attached to our work. We should be attached to our job, not realizing the devastating consequences of this quality of the mind. So let's begin by having the common understanding. What is attachment, anybody?
Love plus selfishness.
Love plus selfishness. That's the definition. What else?
Losing oneself.
Losing oneself.
Completely.
Completely.
Strong connection or bond with someone or something. We want the person to do what we expect them to do or what we want them to do, not what they would like to do.
These are expressions of attachment. Attachment is at the level of the mind. But when we say we're attached, it means that we're taking our thought and we're tying it to another person or object. So that person or object becomes the object of attachment. We've tied, as it were, a mental thread. So whatever happens to that person happens to us. We're connected. Now imagine if you tie yourself physically to a chair to the table, to your furniture, to your bed, to your pillow, to your son, to your daughter, to your husband, to your wife. If you've tied yourself to so many things, to your house, when you try to move, you cannot move because you are bound. So physically, we understand. I can't move because I'm tied up. I got no freedom. But if I'm doing this mentally, I cannot move. If you are attached to your bed, some people say the most comfortable place to sleep in the whole world is my bed. Okay, maybe you got particular sheets, you got a particular type of pillow that supports you, your posture, you've got a special mattress, nothing wrong with that. But if you're attached, what's the flip side of it?
Your happiness is depending on it.
Your happiness is dependent on it. And you say, oh, yes, a good sleep is important.
You become slave of that bed or furniture or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's imprisonment.
It becomes imprisonment because you cannot move. You cannot sleep anywhere else. You cannot be as comfortable anywhere else. So you have become bound to that bed. Now, can you take your bed with you? Some people try. Some people take their pillow with them. Then we get attached to people. I say, no, 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 but I'll take people with me. Now, can you take your spouse everywhere? To your business meetings? To your work meetings? You say, yes, okay, take your spouse. Can you bring your children? People are bringing their kids now to meetings, government meetings. Now, that is attachment to the things and beings around you. You cannot move because they have their own limitations, restrictions. This is bondage, but it's self imposed. You weren't born attached to your bed. You weren't born attached to a particular type of food, attached to a particular temperature, 23 degrees Celsius. These are all things that we've set and we've got attached to. And why nobody knows about the seriousness of attachment is because it's equated to love. And love, of course, positive, all the positive connotations. And love is a positive emotion. It means oneness, it means identification, it means understanding. But love does not equal attachment. The difference is love is that oneness. And if you have that emotion, how can there be confrontation? How can there be negative consequence if you understand someone? There cannot be argument because you see the person's point of view. But when that love is polluted, spoilt by selfishness, it becomes attachment. So some of our relationships may have initially been genuine identification, but when we start making it about what am I getting from the relationship? What am I receiving? Am I getting enough? Then we have a problem. And the problem is this: it becomes attachment. And that selfishness expresses in forms that destroy the relationship. How do we get back to love? Attachment minus selfishness equals love. In this session, we're going to share what are the symptoms of attachment so that we can spot it in our relationships and hopefully try and reduce that selfishness, try and reduce that attachment, and get back to love that will nourish and keep the relationship going. Attachment only leads to sorrow, suffering, parting. There will be separation. In fact, Swami Ramatirtha, he puts it so powerfully. He says it's a law. And when you hear his words, and I'll read out the quote now, you feel the gravitas of this quality and how, more than anything, it's this quality that we need to look out for in the mind. There is a law that anybody in this world who will attach himself to any personality or worldly object shall have to suffer. Either that friend or object will be taken from him, or one of them will die, or there will be a rupture between them. This is an inevitable law. It has to function. And the simple way of understanding this is everything in this world, every person, every object, every situation, war and peace, everything must pass away. But if you get attached to the changing phenomena, if you get attached to a person is not permanent. If you get attached to a situation is not permanent. If you get attached to any object, nothing lasts forever. In fact, the only thing constant about the world is that it will change. And if you get attached to it, hoping to keep it the same, depending on it, you must and will suffer. It's almost as if nature does not allow you to get attached to anything because your real nature is freedom, liberation. And if you get attached to anything in ignorance, this childish mind gets attached, hoping to keep it the same, hoping to always enjoy it the way it used to be. Nature strikes you down, separates you. You lose the object of that which you are attached to. You lose the person who you are attached to. The other person will die. There will be a rupture. There will be a disagreement. It sounds so prophetic, as if somebody is seeing the future. And now, when we go through the symptoms of attachment, you will see this is not foreseeing the future. This is just cause and effect. If you are attached to a person, there will be sorrow because the way you conduct yourself in a relationship will lead to that separation. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, it describes any kind of attachment as dukkha, means sorrow, dukkha yonaya, which means wombs of sorrow. What a metaphor. Attachment to any object or person, it is a womb of sorrow. Means at the moment you may be enjoying, you might think that the attachment is entertaining, is pleasing you, but it's a womb. It will give birth to sorrow, its potential sorrow. And if we understand this right from the beginning, we will safeguard our mind from not getting attached to anyone, anything. Now, your question might be, but what about my family? Including your family? What about my child? How can I not get attached to the child? The child came from me. If you want to maintain a relationship throughout your life with your child, do not get attached. If you want a lasting relationship with your partner, avoid attachment. So, okay, we've discussed the seriousness of the consequence of attachment, but how do we spot it? What is it? And there are 3 symptoms of attachment. The first is dependency. So that selfishness manifests in the form of dependency. Am I dependent on the other person. So when we get attached, we place our happiness, we place our security on that object or person. So there's a dependency. Now, why this is difficult for the relationship is because that person or object may not always be there. So if that person or object is not there, suffering. You're missing the person. You're dependent. But then also, if you're dependent on that person's behavior, on that person's performance, on that person being happy in order for you to be happy, you've given your happiness, your state of mind to that person. Some people attach their happiness to the performance of how the kids do in school. So if the kids don't do well in school, the parents are unhappy as if they have failed in life. What am I doing wrong? Why these children? I'm sure we can all relate to that. But spare a thought. How does the child feel? If you tie your happiness to the performance of the child, how does the child feel?
He's not very burdened. He
Mhm.
feels suffocated.
Suffocated,
Guilty. He feels guilty for the parents.
feels guilty,
Not meeting expectations.
not meeting expectations. You're feeling
Inadequate.
inadequate. You're feeling judged. You're feeling pressurized. By what? The person who claims to love you wants you to be in a particular mold, in a particular type, and that's not who you are. So you're constantly facing this battle that they are in love, not with you, they are in love with the idea of you. So they keep on comparing you and the idea of you, and the child feels that. That burden of expectation, that burden of behavior becomes such an onerous task that the child cannot handle it, because nobody can be responsible for another person's happiness. That is an inside job left to each person. So you are responsible for your happiness. I'm responsible for my happiness. We can support each other in this path, but ultimately, your partner has got to do the work for their inner satisfaction. You've got to do the work for your inner satisfaction. But if you are expecting the other person to make you happy, what a burden. It's an impossible burden. Nobody can carry. And after a point, they say, no more. Too much. This is dependence. The second part, or the second symptom of attachment, is possessiveness. It's the form of control. We want things to go our way. And we give it a nice spin. We give it a positive take on it. No, it's for their good. It's for their betterment. I want to control them. I want to make sure they're kept safe. And we justify it. It's for their good. It's what's best for them. According to who? According to you. It is what you think is best for the other person. And that's the possessiveness that comes in. So in the relationship, the my and the I comes before the person. So it's more about the my than the object or person of attachment. So it is my son. So you're more concerned about the my than the son. My daughter must have this. My wife must be like this. And with all those controls, we don't realize the effect that it's having on the other person. So, how does the possessiveness express? So, either it expresses through pampering. All right, so it's my son, so I want to give my son the best. So we pamper, pamper, pamper. I remember meeting at one of the appointments at Swamiji's residence. A person had come to meet Swamiji, and I was in the lounge, so I had to babysit the daughter, 10-year-old. The mother had gone to meet Swamiji. I'm there, and the 10-year-old daughter is asking me, "What iPhone do you have?" So I said, "Okay, I have a iPhone 12." And then she said, "Oh, I have iPhone." At that time, I have iPhone 13. I said, "Okay, very good." They said, no. I have iPhone 13, but I also have iPhone 12. I have iPhone 11. I have iPhone X. I have iPhone 9, 8, 7. She's got all the iPhones. Now I'm saying, what kind of excitement can she look forward to when she's 22? The next iPhone whatever that is at that time, iPhone 27. What is there to look forward to? Because at that age, the parent has given the best phone, best clothes, best holidays, best experiences, best travel. By the time they are 21, is there anything to look forward to in life? And naturally, the child will find everything boring because they've received it so easily. And who's done this to the child? We've done this to our own child. With the idea that the child must have everything, but that is our possessiveness. That is more about me and my rather than what's best for the child. We've got to regulate so that the child enjoys, has something to work, look forward to, purpose. The second aspect of possessiveness is the control. Do's, don'ts. Don't do this. Constantly advising. And that constant instruction can be disastrous because if the instruction is so frequent, and I remember one of our nieces, we just playfully asked her, "What's your name, darling?" And she replied, "My name? My name is do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this." Because throughout her day at home, her parents are constantly saying, "Do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this." But those do's and don'ts, that instruction, if the child is aggressive in nature, they become a rebel. They push back. But worse, and the damage being irreparable, is if the child is passive in nature. That child becomes a vegetable, stops reacting to the world. Because in order to survive all that constant instruction, all that constant harnessing, suppressing of the child's nature and personality, in order for the child to survive, either the mind rebels or the mind just collapses and stops acting or reacting to the world. Now, you might find this in partnerships where there is a very dominant partner. You find either the other person starts rebelling or goes into vegetable mode. And if you are seeing this with your children, perhaps we need to reduce the control, reduce the possessiveness, reduce the instruction. The last symptom of attachment is that when we get attached, we don't love equally. We love preferentially. We love the object of attachment. But when you think about why do you love that particular person? Why do you love that person?
Conditional love. If they do what we like them to do.
They do
then,
what we like them to do.
Yeah.
Because they're catering to our needs.
Because they're catering to our needs. And we claim to love the child, we claim to love the partner, but actually we love what they are giving us. We love the feeling that they are catering to. We love how they provide for us materially, financially. We love the emotions that they give us. We love the ideas that they give us. But when they stop catering, that is when you clearly see the attachment. You don't actually love the person as they are. You love what they do for you. So, in fact, you're not loving the person, you're loving yourself through the person. And when the person decides something different or decides to behave different from the way you like, from the way you expect, you claim the other person has changed. The other person has not changed. You've just never loved the full package. You only loved the things that you were getting. And the moment you stop getting or it's different, the relationship breaks down. Therefore, let us try and purify our love. Love people as they are. And if you are able to love like that, irrespective of your particular receipt, if you love the person, if you understand the person, if you're able to have that skill to see the person and then have the emotion for the person, irrespective of what you're receiving or not receiving, then you've understood how to love. And that kind of love will not be limited to just your child. The child might teach you to love, but with that understanding, you'll find that that love starts pervading everywhere. Erich Fromm, a great philosopher, he says, if a person loves only one person and is indifferent to all others, means if you love one but you hate everybody else, it's very clear. This is not love. It is a symbiotic attachment. So if your love is preferential, it is attachment or an enlarged egotism. You're loving yourself. And because that person praises you, because that person does what you say, you claim to love them. This is not love, it's attachment. True love is universal. Attachment, very preferential. So, what should we try and aspire for? No doubt, we have feelings for our family. But let us take the feelings for the family and learn how to love further, how to stretch it and take it to others. The feeling when you are a bachelor, we really don't know the meaning of loving another person. And then you get married, and the idea of married life is you experience different emotions. You start feeling feelings that you've never had before. And your idea of you extends to another person. And then it extends to your family. But somewhere along the way, that becomes the boundary. And instead of using the lessons of love that we get from our children and our spouse and making that boundary flexible, permeable, we have a fixed boundary. Spread the boundary. Why not? That feeling that you have for your kids, you have for all kids. The feeling that you have for your brothers and sisters, why not all brothers and sisters? No doubt your duties and responsibility for your own kids is there. You brought them into the world. But why should the feeling be restricted? Let it spread. Let it go. Swami Parthasarathy says, your home should be the center radiating out, not the boundary of your affection. So don't allow the love to stop with your home. If your love stagnates, it becomes attachment. And when it becomes attachment, you will lose your family. They will leave the home divorce, disagreement, confrontation. Let the love be pure and keep moving, including more and more. So, let us be aware of our attachments. Let's identify them. Because if we can identify them, we can, with our intellect, start reducing the attachment, but also make sure that we don't pick up new attachments and we guard against attachment. In fact, if you love without attachment, better for the relationship. Now, in the next class, we're going to take up 3 poems. And these 3 poems that are quoted in The Fall of the Human Intellect and also in one of the books in our course called Select English Poems talk about the devastating effect of attachment. The first poem talks about the attachment of wife to husband, Laudamia, by William Wordsworth. The second poem, Andrea del Sarto, is about husband to wife, Robert Browning. And the third poem, another literary masterpiece by Matthew Arnold, is parent to child, child to parent. And in and through these 3 poems, we'll talk about each relationship and how perhaps we can refine and purify our own relationship to partner, child, and our relationship to a parent. That's it for this week. Now we take up your questions. Feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Tadakar, can I ask? I've already written there,
Okay,
but I'm reading it.
sure.
You said we never reach satiation. Isn't it more like we reach it, but it's only fleeting?
So we don't reach, and the adjective that I used was lasting satiation.
Okay.
So we're looking for that
Okay.
infinite bliss. So yes,
Yeah.
we get pleasure and temporarily we get full. It's kind of like appetite. You eat a meal and you feel full. But then the hunger comes again. So the mind is like hunger. It generates desires constantly. Okay,
Thank you.
pleasure.
So, Dakar, some attachments can be very subtle and deceptive. How do we spot them? Because we might spot them later after they have become attachments and entrenched in our personality.
A good way to spot an attachment is through agitation. When you experience agitation, either in the form of disagreement or in the form of longing, missing, these are signs of attachment. Why am I missing this person? I am becoming dependent. Or why am I having an argument with this person? Oh, because I was too controlling in that situation. Later on in the sessions, a powerful theme that we're going to discuss. Why am I agitated? I had an unrealistic expectation of that person. I wanted that person to behave differently from their nature. So, agitation is a symptom that something is wrong. In fact, if you suffer, you can be sure that you are attached to something, because suffering is a symptom of attachment. So, work backwards. If you are stressed, if you are suffering, you must be attached. Now, what am I attached to?
Dakar, I have a question.
Sure, Sergio.
Yeah, how not to risk going to the extreme and have no involvement at all? I mean, no attachment at all.
So, interestingly, when you go to the other extreme, you're still attached. You're thinking about that person so much that you're deciding, I want nothing to do with that person. So they're still on your mind. So that person just drives me crazy. I want nothing to do with him. So we don't want to go to either extreme. So one extreme is full-blown attachment, constantly thinking. Whether you're with them or whether you're not with them, you're constantly thinking about them. The other extreme is indifference. There is no care, there is no affection, nothing. We want detachment, the middle path. We want love, where you give all the emotion to the person, but without the selfishness, without the dependency, without the possessiveness, without the preferentiality. So we want to refine our love. This is it. So the other extreme would be not caring. Attachment would be caring too much, where you start wanting to control, where you start getting dependent. Is that okay? Great. Divina, there's a question already. We'll take up the question by Divina.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes?
Sorry. I struggled a little bit with the concept of, on paper, when you said if you love somebody, you don't try and change that person, you accept them for who you are, for who they are. I get that on paper, that's fair. You love the person and not the person you want them to be. But if you're with somebody that you love and perhaps they're going for a struggle because of something, okay, just to give you an example, for example, you're with somebody who has trouble communicating, for example, and you want to help them be a better communicator. Do you think that's still trying to change that person, or is that an act of love because you can tell that's one thing that's stopping them perhaps from doing well in their job or in social circles? I just struggled a little bit with that concept. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, where a person is receptive and is open to your advice and suggestions, by all means try. But your love of the person is not dependent on whether they change or not, because then your loving is conditional. If they change, I will love. And then the mind will find something else. And if they change a little bit more, I love them even more. So you're constantly got the person in flux. And then what, if you think about it, what is it that the loving is based on? The loving is based on if they align to your values of what is better. And that's the control, that's the minus. So when we say we love, it means you accept the package. Accepting the package does not mean that you don't try to be a better influence on the other person. It means accepting them as they are now. But if you live constantly in the hope, the expectation they may change, you will find yourself frustrated. The other person will find themselves being judged, not loved for who they are. And that's the breakdown in the relationship. So, Divina, I hear you. So, the loving is the acceptance of the person's present personality. That doesn't mean that we don't try to improve, correct, change. We'll take up one more question, Ashaji, and then next session we are going to continue the subject of attachment because it's so deep and it's so layered. So please keep a note of your questions and we'll take it up in the next session. Ashaji, last question.
Yeah, can it happen your duty can change to your attachment? Because by doing your duty, it can lead to an attachment.
Sure, the mind can get attached to everything, including what you do, your work. So you might say, it is my duty to do this. And when you get attached to your duty, what started off as being intellect led, I'm doing what needs to be done, now becomes an obsession. The mind gets stuck, the mind gets fanatic about it. I have to do this. And that spoils the duty. So the mind has taken over something that the intellect used to lead. So when an activity is fixed by the intellect, it is your duty, it is your obligation. But when the mind takes over and makes that duty an obsession, a fanatic approach, a rigidity, a dependency, that duty stops ennobling you, stops helping you evolve, and instead it makes us heavy. We feel the burden of duty because the mind has taken over. Why? Because we got attached to the duty. How do we not get attached to the duty? Remember, it's only a means to the end. Your goal, self-realization. Don't get attached to the signpost. Don't get attached to the path. Keep moving. Keep moving. Stay light. Stay detached. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. We continue next Sunday. Wishing you a great week ahead. All the best.